So I've kind of become this, I don't know, panfish guy. That's what everyone thinks I am now. I'm still bass fishing. I like learning new things. So I've spent a lot of time learning bluegill and crappie the last 2 years, because I've spent the last 20 learning bass, and feel like I got a pretty good handle there. So anyways, I've been learning panfish, and kind of here's what I've settled on now for just catching bluegill, and I go all over the place. That's the other thing. I travel a lot. So I've been in like 10 different states catching fish, and this is how I've kind of narrowed down this thing. And you'll see, obviously I've got a lot of the Z-Mans. That micro goat, I am so kind of blown away at how good a bait that is. Bluegill like it, crappie like it. That thing is a freaking fish catcher. Crazy thing is, if you put it on the right jig head, you can catch your limit without ever having to change a bait. It's incredible how many fish you can catch on one of those baits. So anyways, I've been super happy with those. Kind of what I've settled on here, you'll see, is this is the micro goat, and I've actually pinched about half of it off to make it real compact. Throwing that on a decoy JDM head. It's actually a saltwater jig head. This is a micro TRD on their Micro Finesse Shrooms head. And then this is a tungsten fly that I get from a buddy of mine, Tom. He has a Etsy store called Starkey Flies. And so, yeah, that's kind of my selection today for testing fall panfish. £2 lining. Oh, this will be dangerous. How about that? £2 lining with little bitty tungsten flies. Throwing these on spinning gear. I've got my BFS stuff here, and I'm throwing my Z-Man baits, which I'll show you in a second. But just in the fall, bluegill come shallow just like they do in the spring, except actually, a lot of people don't know, it's actually in a lot bigger groups. You know, when they spawn, they get 50 of them together and spawn or whatever and do their thing. But when they come in the fall to feed on shells and stuff that start showing up when the water cools, yeah, you get hundreds, sometimes thousands. I'm in a little pocket with a dock a friend of mine has, and yeah, I'm just throwing some little panfish baits. I'll show you the baits here in a minute, but get him back in. I'm not keeping any. I'm just kind of scouting just to see if they were up here yet. When I walked down on the walkway, I could see about, I don't know, 1,000 of them. So, but yeah, this bug, for some reason, bluegill and shellcrackers react to a little bug hopping through the water. So I've made a concerted effort to chase shellcrackers a little more, and I feel like I learned some really key things this year, and which has kind of led me in a direction of trying some different baits, because I like to catch everything on artificial. I'll fish a red worm some for panfish, but I'm trying to catch some fish on artificials, and I want to catch real big ones on artificials. So I'm trying to figure out what it is they do, what their behavior is, and then figure out the areas, because everybody can catch them in the spring when they go shallow and get on a bed. But then where they go the rest of the year seems to be this big mystery. And yeah, we've been blessed at Kentucky Lake. Our bluegill population has kind of exploded. Oh, that's a really nice one. £2, please be easy. Okay, thank you, buddy. How about that hammer? Little 50 size spinning reel. He makes it look tiny. So yeah, this is just it's a Major Craft fine tail. It's actually a trout rod, but I love it for doing this. Little £2 line. Oh gosh. Hang on, buddy, I'll let you go. Oh, hang on. So yeah, I just like hearing that drag zing. All right, bud. See ya. Get my towel here. I'll keep talking. Again, another quality bluegill. All right, bud. But yeah, so it's I've kind of settled on several plastics. I've done most of my fishing BFS fishing, but more it's been learning where they go, and then what do they react to in the water, because I want to catch them on artificials. You know, I live bait fish for bluegill in the spring all the time, And I'm now making that concerted effort to learn to catch them on artificials and to catch big ones. And so, you know, I want to catch the big red ears. I want to catch big bluegill. And I think that's a yellow. Yeah. Catch big red ear, catch big bluegill. Get him back. He interrupted me. And so I'm just learning what they prefer, what they like. And so I know red ears for sure. People will say, well, you know, they eat shells. Well, they do in the spring. And I believe they do in the winter. In the summer, they raft up a lot. And so in the fall, they're rafted up too. So these fish are just rafted up on nothing. They're up here literally just in the backs of pockets and bays by the thousands. And catching some red ear like that, but the better red ear I found have been suspended in brush. And that's since late summer into fall. The red ears have been suspended in brush. And so I think there's something to that. And I think what I've settled on is they are feeding on little shells and little bugs and hatches that get on those branches and then hatch off of those branches. I think that's what those red ear eat. And so I've gone to mimicking with these tungsten flies. So all those big red ears people saw me posting photos of this spring, I caught them all on some kind of bug, either a small plastic, and I'll show you, I showed you those, or these tungsten flies. Either fished on the bottom, hopped along through the water column, or fished on a bobber. And the other interesting thing I'll tell you, so I was mentioning earlier, you know, people get on a dock and say, well, there's two thoughts. Well, all the fish are hiding under the dock, so you need to fish right up on the edges next to the dock. Then other people, when they're bank fishing, no matter where they go, they want to throw out as far away as they can. And I came down and kind of scouted the area and saw lots of fish rafted up on both sides of the dock. There's a lot of little ones under the dock, hundreds of little ones, but the better ones are rafted up just out here, hanging out in the calm water. And I don't know exactly what they're doing. Did they sun this time of year? I really couldn't tell you. But the bigger ones have not been around the dock. They've been out there further. So, but yeah, it's I enjoy the chase. So I want to catch trophy red ear. I need to understand what it is they do. Where do they go? What do they prefer? What are they probably feeding on? Because I've only ever caught red ear consistently in the spring and in the winter. And in the winter, you catch them deep on the bottom. Wow, that's a big bluegill. Goodness gracious. Oh, come here, buddy. Yeah, look at that. It's the size of a reel. So, yeah. Oh, no, he's going to try to flop. Okay. Come on, bud. So, yeah, little 2-pound setup. Little bitty tungsten fly, and I'm catching bluegill, longer than my hand. That's down past my wristband, so yeah, doesn't get any better if you're a bluegill. Chasing bluegill, and bluegill is my favorite fish to eat. I'd rather eat a bluegill than eat a crappie. Problem is you got to clean a lot of bluegills. Get the same amount of meat you can get from some crappie. But that fish bit on the first hop all the way out there at the end of my cast. And you don't want to jerk it violently. They're looking at it as soon as it goes in the water. You just want to look like it's kind of struggling to make it through the water. Easy meal to pick off. And I've watched them today. You can, when you cast out there and your bait hits the water, they all scatter. And then they'll start grouping back around and following it. And so you just fish like you think one's always looking, and you're just trying to give them a little shimmy that'll make him bite. Maybe I'll let it go a little deeper, hop it off the bottom. And I've also found, you move the big raft of them. So if you they get to circling around out there and you catch 7 or 8 of them, the raft kind of pushes away from you. They know something's up, so you got to kind of change. And where I'm at in the shade, I can't see them. Over there in the sun, I could see them real good. So So another plastic I like quite a bit is the Z-Man TRD, Micro TRD, little bitty guy. And a couple of things I like about it a lot is you can swim it. So you can swim it like a minnow bait, and you can just fish it on the bottom. That's a bluegill. It's a big one. Oh yeah. Son, what a bluegill. One of the bigger ones I maybe ever caught. I mean, look how pretty. Look at that fish. I mean, just need to get a good measurement here. Wow. But yeah, that's what that thing catches. It's crazy too how good it catches them just straight reeling it, because it's nothing. I mean, it just looks like nothing, but the bluegill love it. I got turned on to this by Marty Hughes, one of the kayak anglers who writes for us. And I mean, that is just incredible. I'm not sure what they think it is. I think the profile's right to catch big ones. Because it catches hammers. You miss a lot of fish on it, I think, because it's long. So they bite the tail and you don't get those small ones. But if it's a big one, they bite that thing because the thing's so soft, right? So it goes in their mouth real easy, so they end up getting the jig head. And paired with that micro shrooms head, get that where you can see that. Yeah, the two of them together, it's just money for catching big panfish. And all I'm doing is throwing it out, kind of letting it go down about 3 feet and reeling it in. That's what seems to be what they react to. I drug it on the bottom and hopped it like I was doing with that spider, but they don't like it moving. They want it they don't like it jumping around. They like it just steady creeping. Yeah, see, there was a bite. Okay, here we can see what I'm doing. Same kind of deal. The better bites come out there away from the dock. The closer you get to the dock, it starts getting to be small fish. Oh, one already had it. God. Oh, another one. Oh, that was a big one. I saw it. He had the back end of it. I could still see the head when he was circling off of it. Got his buddy though. Hammers. You talk about fill a cooler. I could be filling a cooler today, son. But just out here field testing, trying some different heads, different plastics. That's what I've made a point to do this year, is just test and relocate, test and relocate. But I saw so many fish up rafted, and I was like, I want to go bring a bunch of baits and just sit and play with baits. Oh, I just missed one. And that's kind of what I've done this whole year, even a little bit last year. Oh, I don't know what that is. He just was running, I guess, when he hit. Just another quality size. Holy moly, man. Whew. I mean, you gotta love that. I had to get a picture there. It's just too fun, man. I mean, there's thousands of them in here. It's incredible. And you can come back a week, they might not be rafted up in this area, but they're somewhere like this. You know, that's just what they do in the fall. I've told people that before and they didn't believe me. Like one of my main fall patterns when I would fish in the Ozarks, I would just run around and look for bluegill behind docks. That's how I would fish for bass. So I've known forever they do this, starting in the late summer, especially in the fall. So there'll be a lot of little ones in the late summer, and that's what attracts the bass. But in the fall, the big ones come back shallow before they'll turn around and push all the way back out to the main river and be out there in 30 and 40 foot of water. Wow, did you see that bite? That's so pretty. They'll be out in 20 to 40 foot of water on the bottom. I catch them drop shotting little bugs and worms and stuff. But yeah, just incredible. The quality, the number, just amazing. How'd that work out for you? He already got it, took off running before I was even ready to jerk. I mean, they hit it like a ton. Oh, you little sucker. Like he was clamped down on it, maybe never hooked. He hit that thing flashing through there about 800 miles an hour. Well, I'm hitting them now because they all think they're safe if they, goodness, I'm talking about a thick one. Woo. And I mean, you see how big that bait is, and these are some hammers now. I mean, they get that whole jig down all the way down in there. Oh, look how thick. So thick. It's crazy. I was talking to somebody last weekend at the High Tech open house about how Kentucky Lake, yeah, the largemouth fishing got a little tough, and crappie fishing's in a weird cycle too, but all right, go away. So I have no idea what this looks like to them. I'm literally just throwing it out and reeling it in, and that's what the tail does. That, I think that's part of it. You look at the tail, I think it's doing that in the water. Even when you're straight reeling it, that tail's just got this weird little wiggle to it. I don't know if they think it's a bug, if they think it's a minnow, what they think, but I'm telling you, they like it. And you miss a lot of the little ones on this bait. It's the only thing I tell you is you're going to get a lot of bites that you don't hook, because those little ones will grab the tail and they won't have the bait. The nice thing is, because this bait is so thick and it's a Laz Tech, they'll grab hold of the tail, stretch it out 10 feet and let go. won't tear your bait up. Oh, I saw him hit. I could see my bait when he came up and bit. I mean, you want to talk about fill a bucket. Oh, goodness gracious. We could have been having bluegill supper for about 2 weeks. 3 weeks probably. I mean, those are quality. Thick back, thick body, and I mean hooked. When they get hooked, they ain't getting off. But it's crazy to me that that fish is sucking that bait in the way it is. I mean, these are big ones, don't get me wrong, but these are all like 9 to 11 inches. I had never caught an 11-inch bluegill on Kentucky Lake till this year, and I've caught several this year. So that tells me the bluegill population is exploding. Quality, I mean, like there's a million little ones, but there's some year class from a few years ago that has just gone prolific during this weird cycle of the lake. Just like the smallmouth, just like the catfish, just like the stripers coming back. Everything kind of cycles. So I'm just trying to learn, you know. I think that part of the process is fun, and experiment, find a couple of good baits. I really, I'm not just saying that about the Z-Man. We have lots of companies that we work with and make great baits, but what they've done with their panfish, those microplastics, it's going to quickly make it where those are the only baits I use because they don't tear up. I went crappie fishing yesterday, put one goat on a jig head and caught my limit, caught 20 crappie on one lure. Never changed baits. Now I did pick up and throw a spinning rod some, but all the fish I had in my boat, because I picked the spinning rod up at the end, but all the fish I had in my boat came on a BFS rig, micro goat, one bait. So pretty much if you don't hang it in a tree and lose it, you'll catch your limit. The goat that I have seen, like bluegill especially, will tear the tail off. They had come out with a plastic. They came out with those 4 plastics originally, like the larva, the micro TRD, the shad fries, and stingers. And that stinger bait would, every time you got a bite, it would take the tail off. So I quickly wrote that bait off. But that's the thing. Like, that's the problem with multi-plastic, especially fishing for bluegill. If they bite and miss, when you bring that plastic back, it ain't gonna have no tail because they clamp down. So really fun. But yeah, those Z-Man plastics, just wow, just incredible. All right, suppose I should get home, see the wife. I could stay here all day and catch these things. And I'm telling you, there's 1,000, maybe there's 10,000. I don't know. I can walk around all around this dock and see bluegill everywhere I look. I've seen them do this in the fall, and they raft up in way bigger groups in the fall than they do coming up to spawn in the spring. But maybe it's just today being so calm and a little bit warmer. They know winter's coming, and maybe they take it as a day to come up in sun. I don't claim to understand why fish do what they do. I just observe what they do and then try to learn for that, file it away into my Rolodex, check it year over year, and then you start to establish, like, okay, this is their normal behavior. So that's part of figuring it out when no one else has figured it out. You know, gotta have a process to how you do it. I think they've wised up over here on this thing. I probably go to the other side and catch some more. I might try that. But I've chewed on bluegill and baits, and hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it'll make you want to go try it. Like, I'm telling you, the baits I've showed you, it's really all you need. Just go waylay them. Then it's just a matter of learning your areas, right? Been experimenting with, and I'm super impressed with it too. So I've got it rigged sideways. I don't know if you can see that. So I got the tails up and down instead of horizontal, flat, like the bait kind of looks like you would rig it. It's the Micro Goat. And I pinched off a big chunk of it so that it would go into a bluegill's mouth a little easier. Watch that one bite. I don't know that you're not better off to just leave the bigger body and just catch big ones, not catch all these little ones. Because what I saw with the TRD, I don't have it on a very good jig head, that's one thing too. They seem to be fouling the bait up. It's a quality one. Goodness, come back. Need some more rod. Holy moly. Oh yeah. Calm down, buddy. Yeah, that jig head's kind of tearing my bait up. But yeah, that's quality. Quality, quality. Nice one. So, yeah. Bait's a little tore up, but they like it. Throwing it on 4-pound line, letting it get down to depth, and then just start reeling real slow. Those Micro Goat legs kick at a real slow speed, so I mean, as soon as it hits the water, one has it. Yeah, I think you need to leave the whole bait on there to catch big ones. You shrink the bait down, you start catching a lot more little ones. So that's a better one. Oh yeah. Thick, not very long, but thick, so thick. They're so healthy on Kentucky Lake now. It's very encouraging. I just like it, just something different. Play with new lures, learn new baits, try new gear. It's all interesting to me. And getting good with this stuff makes you good at bass fishing. I know that's a fact. A lot of the finesse things I've learned chasing other species have helped me catch bass. So how about it? That's all right, man. So the Micro Goat has two little kicking legs. It's about a 2-inch bait. You can actually cut it down, make it even a 1-inch bait if you want. And then the Micro TRD, same kind of deal. It's like almost a 2-inch bait. You can run them on different jig heads. There's a couple heads I found that I like. The Micro Shrooms head is good. It's got a good keeper on it that kind of holds it in place. And then there's a crappie jig head that I've always used, which is the Kalin's head. I like the keeper on that. Once you kind of get it rigged right, you got to pull it and really stretch it to get it up over that keeper. But then once it locks on that keeper, I went crappie fishing yesterday, caught 20 fish on the same micro goat. That's just how good those baits hold up. Now, I have seen, like, if you get a bluegill and he clamps down on the back of the bait, they will sometimes pull those little legs off. Some of the original Z-Man plastics, there was one called the stingers. Like, pretty much every time a fish bit, if you didn't hook that fish, you'd come back with no tail. So there's certain ones, the tails come off a little easier, but they have a lot more subtle action, especially like in cold water, which a lot of times is what you want. They swim really good, so they're super soft. They're that stretchy elastec material, but they're really, really soft. And that softness makes those legs kick, even at a real slow speed. Now, you can get slow enough where the leg doesn't kick evenly. It's still kicking and kind of shaking, but it's not that perfect double leg flutter. The other nice thing about the goat is, so you can rig it kind of flat-sided, so like if you want to shoot under docks or do some different stuff like that, you got kind of a flat-sided bait that'll plane a little better, skip a bait under stuff. But you can also turn it up on its side and have the two legs kind of vertical, and they'll do like that, kind of side to side, more like a bait fish does. So I really like that. So I think on the bottom, like when I'm going to fish it on the bottom, which I do a lot for bluegill, I'll hop it up and down. I'll rig it flat ways, and then when I'm going to swim it through the water column, like say for crappie, I'm going to rig it up sideways. So, but yeah, it's those baits are incredible. I've been just fairly blown away. You can buy a pack of goats, and if you don't hang your jig up and lose them all the time, you'll catch your limit on one bait. I'm curious to see how long you could leave a bait on the hook on your rod, how many trips you could go. You'd have to be real careful. And that's the nice thing about live scope. People can poo-poo it all they want, but I'll tell you, one of the number one things it's done for my fishing, I lose half as many lures because I see my lure out there and I know when I'm getting close to a piece of cover or if I'm about to be in trouble. So yeah, if you're careful with your lures, you can put one micro goat on and go all day. Same thing with a micro TRD. I was explaining earlier, and you'll see it on my chest cam. I mean, you just literally are throwing out a do-nothing bait and reeling it in, and it just catches them. It just catches them. I don't know why they like it. I don't know what they think it is. It just freaking catches them. So in the fall, when the bluegill are really rafted up, it's just so hard to beat these small jigs. I brought a spinning rod that had 2-pound line on it and was throwing those little tungsten bugs around. Most of the time I'll fish 4-pound line. I really like to BFS fish. I will tell you that 2-pound line got up under my drag, and basically I had to take like 2 feet of the line off. That's one of the frustrating parts of using spinning gear, is the line getting twists and stuff in it. The more they pull drag, the more they spin your line, and that's going to end up causing your line to twist a lot more. So with BFS, yes, you got to kind of get your gear set right and get the perfect rod with the right reel settings to be able to throw a small bait a long ways. But once you've kind of got that rig dialed in, it's pretty much maintenance free. So that's one thing I really like about it. I think you have a lot more control with BFS. Now, can I skip with a BFS? It's a little hard with crappie jigs. You know, I definitely can't shoot docks like I can with a spinning rod. So I'll always have spinning rods for certain applications, but day in and day out, I'm using 4-pound mono. Sometimes I'll use a super thin braid, like a Varivas braid, you know, like 8 or 10 pound, super thin diameter. That's like a 2 or 1 pound diameter line, and then put a 4-pound leader, 6-pound leader on it, and you're great. So, but yeah, the light line gives you more distance, gives the bait a more natural action, so there's not as much drag with the line in the water. With those real light baits, sometimes the line can pull your lure around and kind of dull its action. So, but anyways, those are just a lot of my thoughts about pan fishing. Like I said, I've been experimenting the last year or two, trying to get better at it, trying to understand what they do and their behavior. And I think if you'll get out and look around in the fall, especially on these calm days like this, you're going to go to areas and figure out what areas they like to raft up in the fall and feed in the shallows, and you can have just like some of the best bluegill and pan fishing you've ever had.